Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your therapy session here on this beautiful Monday night. Look, the Vikings embarrassed us on Sunday, 40-3 against the Dallas Cowboys, and it was so bad that CBS diverted the majority of the country from the Vikings and Cowboys to the Steelers and Bengals. What can we take away from this game? There are a lot of different things that we're going to discuss here tonight, but honestly, this is a turning point for the Vikings, and that's why the show is aptly named. Welcome to the Real Forno Show.
Welcome to the Real Forno Show. Managing editor of the USA Today's Vikings Wire. Betting and college football analysis for the Fantasy Points website. Publisher of Substack Run and Shooter. Host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, as well as a member of Climbing the Pocket.
Dave, I just want to ask you one question as we get started here today. How do you feel about your big round bellies sucking on Sunday?
Ezra did pretty good.
He did. As a whole, the unit was bad, 20 pressures.
As a whole, the unit... Ed Ingram oversetting as usual. They couldn't deal with the stunts. They couldn't deal with the blitzes. It was too much, too fast. They've got to figure it out, or we will possibly implode, which I hope is not the case, because other teams figured out how to beat the Vikings. Now, we have, speaking of the big round bellies, we have some concern. Christian Derail, best tackle in the NFL, had a second concussion 2 weeks in a row. That is not good. He's going to be out on Thursday. He'll probably be out even longer. The brain is something you don't want to mess with. Now, my question is, when it comes to concussions, the NFL has worked with the U.S. military over the last decade to make better helmets, both for the military and for the NFL, to help against concussion injuries, because in the military, we get it through blasts. You get an inbound mortar and you get that explosion blast. In the military, or in the football, you obviously get it with hits, and it doesn't have to necessarily be head-to-head. It could be head whipping back and hitting the turf. And there's a big argument over the players wanting to go to grass in all stadiums over that. But the helmet development, yes, they've gotten better. I would like to see it more and more improved so we don't have to worry about what happens if Christian Derail gets another one, when we're looking at probably the best left tackle we've had in well over a decade, right? He's playing better than what's-his-face did, Khalil, in his rookie season. So I worry about it. I worry about how they're playing. Hopefully, coach will figure that out. Hopefully, they'll scheme some stuff better against good defensive lines. Pardon me. My cold is still hanging on. It's moved into my chest, which I don't like. But with good defensive lines, the Dallas Cowboys had the number one pass rush in the league. We now face on Thursday the get that bad taste out of your mouth game, the number two team with pass rushes, the New England Patriots. So it's going to be interesting. And then we're going to face the Jets, who also have a good pass rush. It shall be interesting. I hope they figure it out, because if they don't, this is going to end up being a disappointing seasons. Niner Sickness, welcome to the pod. Did the Vikings have a bad game, or did they get exposed? Yes and yes. Hopefully it won't stay that way. Yes, Davey, I do need to take a shot. I do have some bourbon and soda right now that I'm drinking. Hopefully it'll soothe the throat, but hopefully I won't have to talk as much anymore, and Tyler will pontificate for the majority of the show.
I was going to say, I was wondering if you were going to let me talk, Dave. You went on a nice little diatribe there. But let's kind of start in the comments, because there's a lot that I want to get to here tonight, and the comments have already really given us the platform to kind of talk about our first thing. One, great to have Mary back. Talked to her earlier today. Gave her the latest batch of Odie pictures. She was very happy with the puppy.
I'm jealous, Mary. I didn't get the Odie pictures.
Hey, you know what? I told you this yesterday, Dave. Odie lost his first tooth yesterday afternoon. I did not get to keep it and put $1 under his pillow. But I do know he lost it because we played in the morning. I noticed it was loose. Played at night. I noticed it was gone. But let's start here. Niners Sickness Podcast. You already mentioned the question. Did the Vikings have a bad game or did they get exposed? I think, Dave, your answer of yes and yes is correct. But I'll also say this. I think what got exposed, like the method to beat the Vikings has been clear since week 2. It's a very simple formula. Get pressure with 4 guys consistently, play man coverage on the outside, and play it well. That's it. It's a very simple formula. The Eagles had the horses to do it, and so did the Cowboys. A lot of teams don't have the horses to do it, and this is what, when you face the really good elite teams in the National Football League, like one of the reasons Buffalo couldn't do it, one, they don't play a ton of straight man across the board. Every team plays man to a point, but they like to play a lot of cover 2 quarters and do it. It's Leslie Frazier. We saw him when what he did in Minnesota. He runs a lot of the same stuff, except he's evolved with the times. But the big thing is when you have the horses to do that, the Vikings have not made adjustments. And I think what really got exposed is Kevin O'Connell as a head coach and schemer and how he was willing to adapt. Like, Ed Donatel has done a pretty good job of adapting and holding teams pretty solid in the second half. Look, that wheel route touchdown to Tony Pollard, the pressure didn't get home, and Dak Prescott threw it like second number 6. Yep, and Tony Pollard ran a choice route, and then he veered upfield for a wheel, and he destroyed Jordan Hicks. Like, it's hard to be mad at the defense for allowing that when the pressure can't get home. You can't expect these guys to cover for 6 seconds. That's not fair or reasonable. Like, okay, it happened. It sucks. Let's move on. But I'm not putting that on the coverage. There has to be some semblance of pressure there, and they didn't get it. But overall, Donatel's done a really good job of adjusting mid-game, and that comes from his experience because he's been in the NFL for nearly 30 seasons. Kevin O'Connell got drafted in 2008 in the 3rd round. He has not been a coach in the National Football League for that long. In 2014, they even said it on the broadcast. He was calling games for CBS Sports Network. And it's frustrating to not see any adjustments from the Vikings offense because you could see early on the 3rd play of the game, Micah Parsons strip sack. Darisaw allowed his first 2 sacks of the season and his first sacks in the last 13 games on Sunday. Now, when you see that your offensive line is getting victimized consistently, there are a lot of things you can do to help counteract it. Now, I'm not privy to the game plan, so I'm just going off based on what I saw. They were running a lot of longer concepts. They were not trying to get the ball out quickly. They were not running misdirection. They were not trying to run screen passes and get these guys to go upfield, and then all of a sudden Dalvin Cook sneaks out behind them, and then you could take advantage for 15 to 20 yards. We weren't doing that kind of stuff. Tight end screens are great because you don't have to have anybody do anything differently because the tight end blocks, he whips his hips, catches it, and then it's a middle screen, so you just kind of veer upfield. Those can work, but they can also be stopped for that very same reason. One of the other things I found inherently frustrating is I did not see a lot of chip blocks. I did not see a lot of max protect sets to try and do some play action. They just kind of ran their offense, and they're just like, look, we're going to live and die by this thing, and this is the National Football League. This isn't college football where if you have the horses, you could just run the same offense. Like, look at Clemson. Clemson's offense stinks, but they run the same offense, and their defense is so good that it really hasn't mattered. This is the National Football League. It matters here. You have to be willing to adapt. There's a saying, adapt or die.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin O'Connell chose death on Sunday when he didn't have to. Now, could they have come back? Well, let's be honest, probably not. Like, hindsight is always 20/20 in these things, but the Vikings have a history of coming back. They did not adapt at all against the Dallas Cowboys, and they basically just played their straight game plan. And to me, that's what was exposed, and they need to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Niner Sixes podcast will say this: Clemson needs to learn how to recruit receivers that can separate and not have an offense that is like elementary. If they fix those two things, national titles. Like, that's it.
Beto, Tyler does college scouting every year. He's very good at it. Just to let you know, I want to hit on something that Nick said, that we 7-step dropped to death. You know, and you talk about adapting and changing to defeat that rush. One of the things is you go to a 3-step drop, quick passing game, and that never happened. And it's one of those things that left me scratching my noggin as to why Kevin O'Connell should know better, that if you got a heavy pass rush, make things quick. You make things quick, Kirk Cousins doesn't get the pressure. Yes, you're not getting the long throw to Justin Jefferson, but you're getting the ball out to somebody 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 yards down the field, and then let them make the play and get the yards. And that will slow things down a bit. And then you can start mixing it up after that. It did not happen, and I appreciate Nick for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's... Why would you 7-step... Let me get the word vomit out. Why would you 7-step drop Kirk to death when, one, he is not the most mobile guy. Two, you could tell his pocket presence was not on the upper echelon of what Kirk's pocket presence is, because he was getting pressured to death. Like, why in the world are you just going to send him back consistently at 7-step drops? Like, this is blatantly stubborn and incredibly frustrating. You could call it malpractice, Dave. You could honestly call it malpractice. Like, take a look. If I keep trying, like, you remember those little kid toys? Did you buy them for your kids where it's like a little square, a cube, and they're like different shapes, and as a kid, like your sensor, you're trying to put like the shape, circle in the circle hole, the triangle in the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Why in the world are we trying to shove a triangle in a circle and a rhombus in a square? It doesn't work. What are we doing here? If you see something's not working, you don't just keep spamming it to death. You know what you do? You say, hey, this isn't working. Oh, we have these nice little things called tablets. And we can see with still shots and video why it's not working. Oh, Micah Parsons is destroying our left tackle. Hey, let's have TJ Hawkinson line up right there and go boom, punch him right in the shoulder pad, knock him off balance. Hey, Derail, your elite left tackle. Look, your elite left tackle is going to lose to an elite pass rusher. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to lose. Like, the whole point of being an offensive lineman is, if you're going to lose slowly. You're going to lose. You want to lose slow. And you know what? That's what we talked about with Bradbury. Lose slow. Because the slower you lose, the easier it's going to be for Cousins to get that ball out. But when they're losing fast, where's the adjustment? How is Ed Ingram at this point in the season, Dave, consistently oversetting to the right? This is something that we identified against the San Francisco 49ers in the preseason. Remember that Javon Kinlaw sack? It was blatantly because he overset to the right. We're still dealing with this. Chris Cooper's done a pretty good job. And overall, like, the pressure numbers aren't great. But I think we can agree the offensive line as a whole has been an improvement. And Kirk Cousins feels more comfortable back there, which nullifies some of those pressures. Oh, he gets pressured 8 times a game? All right. Well, 3 of them, Kirk is figuring out because he's playing better and more confident. Like, that's fine. Like, in a vacuum, look, it is what it is. But why are we still making the same mistakes? And now I'm a big fan, and I know you are too. Ed Ingram needs to learn on the fly. There's so much good to his game that you deal with the bad and you try and counteract it with your great tackles and sliding protection over, because Cleveland's proven outside of that Washington game, which at this point we can call it an anomaly because he had back-to-back good football games against both the Bills and Cowboys. He was the Vikings' number one rated player on offense this past weekend per PFF. You have to help him out. And you have to help these tackles out when they're getting just absolutely destroyed. What are we doing here? It's incredibly frustrating that it seemed there's no effort made. You know what? Justin Jefferson, Dave, I don't know if you've seen this yet. I just wrote it up for the Vikings Wire I'd say about an hour ago. I'm going to pull it up here and I'm going to read this to you verbatim. Justin Jefferson, I wish we had adjusted faster throughout the game. And he explicitly talked about Kirk Cousins getting the ball out quickly. Look, this isn't necessarily on Kirk Cousins. We have been very critical of Kirk Cousins in this space. This loss is not on Cousins. He was failed. He was failed by the offensive line. He was failed by the play calling. He was failed by the scheme. He was failed by the game plan. Most importantly, he was failed by the lack of adjustments on the offensive side of the football to figure out what the Dallas defense is doing and then fix it or counteract it or something. Honestly, I wasn't even embarrassed by the performance. You could tell those guys were trying. They were trying, but they were set up to fail. And when you're set up to fail, I'm just going to keep failing. That sounds like fun. No, you fix failure. You're going to fail consistently in the National Football League. It's the nature of football because you're playing against great competition and great athletes and great minds. The Vikings are going to fail a ton on Thursday because they're playing against arguably the greatest coach in the history of professional sports, Bill Belichick. How are you going to combat failure? How are you going to learn from it and be better? That's the big question that we have so far moving forward. How is this team going to combat failure and fix it? I don't have faith right now that Kevin O'Connell is going to be able to do it the rest of the season. I'm not saying he can't. That's not what this is about. Kevin O'Connell has not proven that he can make those slick in-game adjustments to be able to fix failure. And to me, that's the biggest question mark for this team moving forward. They have to be able to fix what's not working. They have to be willing to adjust and not have an ego, because that can be a big thing with play callers. I don't know if it's one with Kevin O'Connell. It doesn't feel that way, Dave. And you feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong. Play callers have massive egos. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand. Well, you have to understand when your ego gets in the way, and you have to be willing to fix it and modify it. Admit, hey, I'm wrong, so I'm going to fix it and win. Use your ego to your advantage. Tell your ego that your ego yesterday was wrong and your ego today is right. I want to see that fixed. And I saw a question come up from RJ Martin, who I'm 99% sure is my cousin. And if you are, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for listening. Do you think the game has a different path if Hawk catches that early TD, or is Dallas can be too much handle regardless? Look, I think it's a fair question. I think you could have said the same thing against the Eagles if they would have been able to have Irv Smith Jr. catch that. But this wasn't a pulverizing loss. Like, the Cowboys just didn't go all blitzkrieg. It was 23-3 at half. This wasn't brutal. They methodically beat us down, destroyed us. It wasn't one of those things where you had a couple plays that's just 80-yard touchdown, 60-yard touchdown. No, they were consistently driving the ball, running it down our throats, and they took us out of the game mentally. I think if Hawk catches that, maybe it's a little different, but I don't think that it's so different, and it sets the tone. That Irv Smith touchdown would have been a 50-yarder against the Eagles. That is a momentum changer. That was just, he wasn't able to bring it down to the corner of the end zone. I don't think it changes a whole lot. But I do think that it could have changed. I don't know. I don't. It's not the momentum swing that it would have been for the Eagles game, and to me, that I don't think it's an issue. Dave, I'm out of breath a little bit. Let's
Okay,
hear your opinion.
I want to answer Beto's question here from Niner Sickness. What's the difference between 8 games won compared to 2 losses? To your head coach making the in-game adjustments. Beto, I think he's a very, very good young head coach. He's in his rookie year. He's learning as well as everybody else. We've come with good plans for most of the season. 8 games, we've got 8 wins. We've come from behind in, I think, all of them to win the game. The confidence building by him and the attitude given to the team has helped, and that has fostered we're able to win, come from behind. In the 2 losses, however, both were running basically the same script. You put Kirk Cousins under pressure, and the offense tends to fail or not be as near as productive as we like. That is, you think Bill Belichick's not noticed that? Oh, of course he did. He's going to be looking at that come Thursday. We're going to get the same deal. Kevin O'Connell needs to look at himself. Every season teams have moments of adversity. This is where a big one for Kevin O'Connell, coming off that just absolutely ass whooping we took on Sunday. He's got to figure out how to fix that. Can he? I don't know. He's a rookie coach. We've only seen him this 1 year. So I hope he can. Pardon me. I really hope he can. But it is I think he can. I have faith in him that he can. It's going to be looking at what went wrong on Sunday, fixing it, knowing that next time we see that, all right, is one of the questions I have out for tomorrow for Wednesday when we talk with beat writers from the Patriots is, where do their pressures come from? Do they come from the outside? Do they come from the interior? Do they come through stunts? Do they come through blitzes? He's got to be able to answer. I asked that question, but he has to ask that question, and he has to be able, with our offensive line coach, to plan for that. Whether it is to go to short passes, go to backs protect, bring CJ Ham in as an extra blocker, whatever it is, that has to be addressed. And this will be a test. Will he do that going into this game? Because literally we are facing the number 2 pass rushing team in the league in the Patriots. Mm-hmm. So it's buddy, I hope it goes well. I hope we get back to our winning ways and that we establish the Vikings as not a, quote, what we heard all at the beginning of the year, a fraudulent team, and that they come back and they are strong enough so they can adapt when we play San Francisco, Dallas, the Eagles, whatever, in the playoffs. Because they're going to need to figure it out or they're going to be one and done.
No, and you're right. I want to jump back to the point where I mentioned that I didn't have faith in O'Connell.
Ed, thanks for coming on, buddy. Yeah. Ed,
yes, absolutely,
that don't know, is our salary cap expert. The man is a genius when it comes to figuring out the numbers and contracts for climbing the pocket. Now we'll get back to whatever. Sorry about that. I just wanted to highlight Ed.
Fair enough. I think might have been just a little hyperbolic when talking about O'Connell not having faith in him. I think he probably can do it, but man, It's really hard to see a game like that where you just get absolutely obliterated schematically. And
Schooled
you just,
is a good word.
oh, yeah. He didn't just get schooled, Dave. He got schooled by Mike McCarthy. Now, obviously, McCarthy's got two tremendous coordinators who are probably going to be head coaches next year. But I'll say this much. I really think the Vikings were hungover on Sunday. Like, the hangovers are real, man. How that Buffalo game went down, they played extra. They have a short week coming up, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute because there's some historical precedent that some of these guys played through 4 years ago when they had an embarrassing game and then had a short week. But it feels like there were a lot of things in the air. A look-ahead spot to New England, just coming off of an absolute high against Buffalo. Feels like this could have been a letdown game. And you know what? Better happen now than in January, baby. And let's revisit history because if you remember, the last time the Vikings played the Buffalo Bills was 2018. Josh Allen's rookie season. He gets the start. He hurdles Anthony Barr. And the rest is history. And they destroy the Vikings. I believe the score was 27-6. And you know what? It felt like 50-6 because they absolutely owned every single game or every single element of that game. And 4 days later, the Vikings had to travel to Los Angeles and they played the Rams. Now, this was a big game because the Vikings were 1-1-1 in the first season with Kirk Cousins and John DeFilippo was the offensive coordinator. And they went to Los Angeles and they lost. But it was a tremendous football game. And that football game was 38-31. And the Vikings went step for step with a Sean McVay-led offense that was chugging along really well at the time. And they made the Super Bowl that year. I'm not super concerned, Dave, about the Vikings' ability to kind of figure it out and against the Patriots on Thursday, be ready to play because a lot of those players were on that team. Brian O'Neill was on that team, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Daniil Hunter. You have a lot of guys who are still holdovers from that team. They're going to understand what happened. They're going to be able to talk about it. They'll be able to fix it. I think the Vikings are going to come out ready to play. They're going to have their primetime purple color rush jerseys on.
Have they announced
which
that?
The Vikings
I was curious.
They announced it about an hour ago.
Awesome. I love that.
They have played with those jerseys, to my knowledge, 3 times. All of them Thursday Night Football. They lost 17-15 to the Dallas Cowboys, and they beat the Washington Commanders 19-9 and the Pittsburgh Steelers 36-28 last year. So to my knowledge, they're 2-1, and I don't think I've missed a game because they debuted in 2018.
More than that, because that was the color rush uniforms before they called it primetime purple.
To my knowledge, they debuted them in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
They did not wear them in 2020 because they did not have a Thursday night game. I think they've only worn them 3 times.
You may be right. And Pro Football Focus, I don't believe you can pull that up there on their stat head and go, how many times have they worn this uniform? I don't know. You may be right. I do like the uniform though, believe it or not. So go for it. Win this sucker.
Yeah. And let's kind of shift gears because the Vikings outworldly stunk on Sunday and they embarrassed everybody. But we need to talk about the Patriots. It's a short week. And the Patriots are coming off a very weird win, Dave. They beat the New York Jets 10-3, but they couldn't do anything on offense. Mac Jones completed 23 of 27 passes, but they couldn't move the ball. They only put up 3 points on offense. They won on a Marcus Jones 84-yard punt return to seal the deal. And
with seconds
the Vikings,
yes.
Yeah. The Vikings can stop this offense, and I'm not super worried about it. The receivers aren't necessarily what you call grade A. They have some tight ends, but Mac Jones's arm is weaker than a limp pasta noodle. He cannot drive the football down the field whatsoever. And The running game is going to be interesting. How are they going to use their stable of backs, Damian Harris from Andre Stevenson? Because they kind of use a committee, and every week it seems like they pick a guy and they kind of roll with him. How are the Patriots going to be able to move the ball? And then how are the Vikings going to stop their pass rush? Because Matthew Judon, like, people kind of laughed at the Patriots for paying him so much money. They're not laughing now because he's the number one pass rusher in the country. Mm-hmm. Dave, can you hear Odie right now?
I can hear Odie, and we miss Odie, but he's obviously yapping at your wife, so that's not a problem on this end. We can barely hear it. Not a big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I take a look at this Patriots team and I take a look at where the Vikings are at, the Patriots are fighting for the AFC East. They currently sit at 6-4, along with the Buffalo Bills, and along with the New York Jets. But the Bills and Patriots are both 7-3. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a very competitive division. The Vikings are on the opposite end. All they need to do is win a couple more games, and they're going to be division champs.
Right. And over the second place, Detroit Lions.
Hell yeah.
Too bad.
Dave, let me ask you this. Yeah, not too bad, Green Bay. How do you feel about this Patriots team? What like, obviously they're...
How do I feel? They got a great defense and their offense stinks. As long as we score some points, stay on the positive end, we should win. Now, that's going to be a challenge because they have a great defense. But I think our defense should be able to handle their offense relatively well. Tomlinson looks to be back. Caleb Evans, thankfully, looks to be back after some Andrew Booth was very exposed and has not lived up to his draft ranking as of yet. You may be able to tell us why, because we're both high on the kid. But I do think the Vikings, they're opening up, I think it's 3.5 point favorites? And I think that's about right.
Yeah. Oh, so one of the people that I talked to just got the All-22, and he is not happy. And I'm excited to get it because apparently this game looks even worse for Kevin O'Connell than we initially thought. Oh boy, I'm very excited to get it. But let's keep talking.
Hey, I'm with Nick, drinking the purple till the keg of the season is tapped. Yes, baby. Let's do a few keg stands. I'm willing to give it a try. I've done a bunch of keg parties in my day. I have no problem returning to my youth there, Nick.
Yeah. Let's talk about the prospects of this team. We'll get back to the Patriots. Dave, after this game, are you still bullish on the Vikings making a real run in the playoffs? Because when you have a loss like this, it kind of causes everybody to rethink their opinions and readjust their expectations because the data has changed. Yeah, the data absolutely has changed, but I'm not in a panic mode with this team, but I still need to see some things. I need to see willingness to adjust, especially on offense.
Well, you named this. We talked last night, and you talked about this game being the turning point, right? The Vikings are facing a turning point right now. It's the whole theme of this show. They can turn left and they can implode like the Cardinals did years ago where they started out so good and went to crap. Heck, you could point to the Zimmer Vikings in 2016, but a lot of that was injury driven, and injuries are starting to rack up. Or they can turn right and take this beatdown that they got on Sunday and use it as motivation, embarrassment as motivation. We're not going to let that happen again. And that goes across the board. It goes from players two coaches, including Kevin O'Connell, to say, hey, no, we're going to take this and we're going to learn. We're going to make sure this never happens again, or that we have answers for it if it does. I'm in that latter group. I think they can make those adjustments.
Yeah, I think they can, and I'm very intrigued to see if they will, because obviously Kevin O'Connell's an incredibly smart offensive mind. He has been for some time, and that's why he's in the position that he's in. He's also shown himself to be a good leader, and he's willing to take criticism and take blame instead of just deflecting it everywhere. Something Mike Zimmer struggled with. He struggled big time with it, and it's one of the reasons why he ended up not having a job with the Minnesota Vikings anymore. And it's kind of frustrating, but things run their course. It happens. We'll move on.
Brian,
this is a real test.
If they keep doing what they did with Philly and Dallas, deep playoffs, no way. Yes, I agree. If they keep doing that, what I'm saying is I anticipate that Kevin O'Connell will figure it out, and they won't do that. They'll come up with answers. And if they do come up with answers, then we can go deep. If they don't come up with answers, you are 100% correct. We're looking at a one and done.
Yeah. The nice part is not everybody has the horses to do what they do. Play good coverage across the board and get home. That with four-man pressures, the Cowboys got pressure on Kirk Cousins 57% of the time. That's absurd. Like, average in the NFL is going to be around that 30% mark. We're not talking 30%. We're not even talking 40. 57. It's complete ineptitude for a multitude of reasons. And once I get the film, it's going to be an absolute blitz session tomorrow, so I can get it taken care of, and I can figure out like some of the whys behind what was going on. But I'll tell you this, Dave. Oof.
Davey is correct. 77, we took a shellacking by the Rams, and yesterday was a shellacking. But we beat them in the Mud Bowl, and I remember that as a kid. And yes, Davey, you and I are about the same age. We remember that. You wanted to bring up some games that fell into that category as well, where teams got beat and bounced back.
Yeah, and the main one I wanted to talk about was that Bills game in 2018, because they played 4 days later against the Los Angeles Rams, and they played a great football game. One of the best things, coaches will say it all the time, Dave, and I'm sure you heard it from some of your coaches as you grew up playing football. The best thing you can do after getting your ass absolutely kicked is get back out on the field. And you don't have to wait long. They're already doing installs for the game. There's no sit around and wait. No, they're already game planning. They're already doing walkthroughs in practice. Look, it's Patriots time. There's no more Cowboys. It's Patriots. And I think that's honestly the best thing for this team right now. It's a short week. It's a holiday week, and they're going to have 10 days to prepare for a very good New York Jets defense. But how are they going to respond? Are they going to respond like the Los Angeles Rams game? Are they going to get an opening drive touchdown to set the tone and be like, no, you're not playing the Cowboys team. You're playing the team that throttled the Packers. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see the tone set right away. Obviously, there's some frustration. You've seen it kind of leak out, but it's okay. You're being honest with yourselves. Justin Jefferson was direct. He was not disrespectful, and he said, "Hey, we have to be better." And he said, "Why?" And he said, "How?" There's nothing wrong with those things. Ed asked this question earlier: burn the film or try to learn from it. I think you have to watch it and try to watch it within real time and be like, okay, this is what we were seeing. Why did we not adjust to it and learn that way? You're not going to learn a lot of, hey, this guy just kicked my ass all day. You already know that. Try and figure out why you weren't adjusting. And if you did make an adjustments, why didn't they work? You want to go a little deeper than just, hey, how did this guy play against that guy? You want to understand processes. You want to understand adjustments. You want to understand game plans. And I think that's how you have to watch the film. And I think it can be incredibly fruitful for the organization to understand that. Are they going to have time this week? That might be something you defer to some quality control coaches as the big boys are doing the game plan install. And then they can come out and be like, hey, here's a full synopsis of what was going on. This is what I think. Yada, yada, bing, bang.
I agree. Absolutely. Can they do it? Absolutely. I think so too. I think they're going to come and beat New England. I think they're going to have the answer for Belichick's defense. We're going to see an improved team. Do I think they're going to put up 40 points? No. Do I think they're going to win the game? Yes. So, are they making that right turn? Like I said, this is the turning point. Are they going to make it? I hope so. Time is money, and he has some. Yes, Nick, you are right. They got to do it. They got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're approaching the end of the podcast, Dave, and I don't know if you know this about me, but the best day of the year is this upcoming Thursday, and it's Thanksgiving. You get football day.
Why
you get
is that?
Food, football, family, friends, and I get to eat so much that I want to puke. I love Thanksgiving. I love it. And I'll tell you this, if you don't like turkey, somebody in your life has never cooked you a good turkey.
Well, I know
so Dave,
friend of the show, Arif Hassan, will argue with that. He has very strong opinions on that.
I went to the Norse Code live show on this past Thursday night, and they talked about it, which, if you haven't listened to Norse Code, once you're done with this show, I'll give it a high recommendation. He talked about how he's had a turkey that he's liked. It's the thing, his argument I understand now, because for how much you spend on turkey and how much effort it takes, it comes nowhere near close to what your expectations should be considering the effort. Okay, that's a fair take. But I'll tell you, you can make turkey taste pretty good. All you got to do is cut the spine, flatten it out on your smoker, season that sucker.
I think it's called.
Yep. Trim, slit open the skin, shove some bacon, butter, and a couple whole cloves of garlic in there. Smoke it, and every hour or so, spray on. I spray apple juice.
Okay.
Because it's a very mild flavor, and it keeps it moist, and it doesn't, and the sugar will help keep it moist too. It's very simple.
So you cook your own turkey.
Science. Yeah.
Ed is talking about brining the bird. I've heard that as well as a good way. I'm the one that does the baking in my family. I like to focus on the pies because that's all I really care about when it comes to Thanksgiving. But the best turkey I've ever had is deep fried. We used to do it back in the Air Force. The guys would bring their fryers in, and it turned out the best. I tend to agree with Arif. It's not the best meat, but it's traditional for Thanksgiving, so we do turkey. This year, I'm doing a turkey breast. First time I've not done the whole bird, and I'm doing just the breast. I've been watching videos today, believe it or not, on the best way to do that. I will try to figure it out. Somebody asked, has the Patriots beat the Vikings in the past under Bill Belichick? And I'm trying to look that up real quick.
Yes, once.
Only
2000.
Once.
Dante Culpepper's second ever start. They went into Foxborough and beat Bill Belichick. They never beat Tom Brady as a starting quarterback.
Interesting. That sounds. Besides the only once, Davey and his marinade, his bird and OJ and brown sugar sounds interesting.
Ooh, that does sound good. I will say, my wife heard the turkey talk, and she texted me making fun of me because I'm not making a turkey this year, but I have made turkey, and I do a pretty good job with the bird.
Good.
So I'm sure I'll be hearing about that all night, which that's okay. My wife loves me.
Clifford says turkey and ham for Thanksgiving, prime rib for Christmas. I agree with you 100%, Clifford. Prime rib is the Christmas meat.
I just got a 3.5 pound prime rib roast at Coburn's, a grocery store in town, and I paid $9.99 a pound for it.
How in the world did you get it here? Prime rib down here is probably running close to $20 a pound.
Last year I paid $20 a pound. I don't know what the deal was, but they were running a special, and I took advantage of it. So I'm gonna smoke it on my birthday, and I'm gonna have a big slab of prime rib on my birthday. And let me tell you,
it's a wonderful piece of meat. Wonderful roast.
Absolutely. So, Dave, let's end the show on a fun note. I think the Vikings are going to end up winning on Sunday, but it's beside the point.
On Thursday.
See, I'm so disjointed from being just absolutely embarrassed this past weekend that, yeah, it is Thursday. Dave, what are your 5 favorite Thanksgiving Day foods?
My 5 favorite? Pie,
Yeah.
pie, and pie.
1, that's 6, and 2, that wasn't descriptive. You didn't say what kinds of pie.
Well, I love virtually all kinds of pie. My ex-wife, rest her soul, used to make a fantastic pecan pie. I do a fruited pie. I've got one planned already. I already bought the ingredients. We're doing cherry. 2 types of cherries. Raspberry, blackberry, all going to be mixed in a deep dish. Love that. I do like your traditional pumpkin pie. A good apple pie, especially a Dutch, little crumbs, is good as well. But for Thanksgiving, I like cranberries. Give me fresh cranberries. I've always liked cranberries. It helps with dry turkey meat. It just works that way. I've had some good stuffing. I've had some bad stuffing or dressing, depending on where you come from and whether it's in the bird or not in the bird. I like mashed potatoes and gravy. I like green beans. I'm not a fan. I've had some good green bean casseroles, but that's not a big deal. If you're down south, when I lived in Virginia, they love to include a good macaroni and cheese. I don't object to that. For my family, it's a whole day. We start in the morning. We start with sausages and bacon and treats. We'll do muffins or some sort of lemon bread or something like that to get, us in the mood. We watch football all day. We bake. We sometimes we do the pies the day before. Sometimes we don't. Depends on the scheduling for the oven. And it's a wonderful family event. And we sit down and watch football, and I think it's great. The Vikings are playing this Thursday. Just wonderful.
Yeah.
Should be a good holiday.
Look, you made some good points on food, but I got to tell you, the number one Thanksgiving Day food.
I love strawberry rhubarb. I love rhubarb.
Yeah. The number one Thanksgiving Day food, Dave, it's not turkey. It's not mashed potatoes. It's not pie. It is gravy. Gravy is the number one Thanksgiving Day food.
You can have your own opinion.
Tremendous.
For me, it's pie. I also drink a lot of wine on Thanksgiving. So, drinking a lot of wine, you expect me to be a little bit tipsy when we come into the final score on Thursday night.
Hell yeah. Hey, I just got a text from my wife saying that gravy's not even food. Well, I'm sure that'll be a fun conversation in a few minutes. I love turkey, mashed potatoes, but number 2 is my mom makes it and my wife is making it this year. It's a pumpkin chiffon pudding.
Ooh,
and so here is the basis of it. It is essentially pumpkin pie filling add gelatin, whip it into a meringue, and it's like very springy and squishy, and it's one of the greatest things you'll ever eat in your life. I'll put 3 mashed potatoes, 4 turkey, and then 5. My aunt Laura, Caitlin, yeah, F my life. I have to make that pumpkin pudding tonight. I love her. She's a gem.
Hey, you got a good wife.
Yeah,
you got to keep.
I really do. I have a big time keeper. But she makes this. My aunt makes this broccoli cheese casserole. So it's like broccoli, corn, cheese, and I don't know. She puts other stuff in there too. I just remember those 3. And it's, if you don't like broccoli, it's a great starter. Like, you don't have to like hate broccoli or love broccoli. You just like, oh, the cheese makes a massive difference, a huge one. And I'll tell you, I am a big fan of it.
Well, we have a family dish called fluff. I like cranberries, and it uses cranberries, Cool Whip, and cran raspberry jello mixed together. Absolutely wonderful. If you want to talk about something simple and easy that the kids will love, it is awesome. But Thanksgiving is for family, friends, and good memories, and the Vikings will hopefully top that off on Thursday with a wonderful one as we defeat the New England Patriots.
Yeah. Ooh, Dave, I know this is completely off topic, but apparently, Lane Kiffin, the Ole Miss head coach, is going to step down and take the Auburn job. Huge movement in the SEC. That's going to be interesting. I want to try this fluff now, and it sounds good.
It's easy. It's super easy, and especially if you have kids, guaranteed they'll eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave, that's the show for tonight.
Woohoo! Hey,
yep.
We had Niner sickness on, right? Beto, good luck on your game tonight. The 49ers play tonight down in Mexico City. Should be a good game.
Yeah. Make sure you like, subscribe, rate our both on YouTube and then also on the podcast feed when it comes out. If you're listening to that, we're going to have a nice lineup of shows here this weekend. Are we full, Dave?
We are full this week. We have you tonight, Monday, kicking off the week as usual. Tomorrow night, we have a Vikings hot takes with the great Flip Mazzy and Eric Thompson of the Daily Norseman giving their hot takes. And then Wednesday, we have Vikings Happy Hour, where we have Chad Graff, and I'm trying to remember the second one, 2 beat writers of the Patriots, and we're going to be talking about Patriots going into Thursday night. Of course, in the final 2 minutes, we'll go with the final score live. And we appreciate you yesterday coming and join us, even though it was a blowout. We're going to have a good week this week. Remember, folks, it's Thanksgiving week. Family, friends, and good football all meld together here on Climbing the Pocket.
Damn right, Dave. Skol Vikings, everyone. Enjoy your turkey week.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout-out goes to our partners, The Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.